Welcome to Dorks on Sports. That's a podcast about four dorks talking about sports. My name is Daniel. Joining me today is Curtis, a newly minted Twitter warrior. How are you doing over there on Seahawks Twitter sphere there, Curtis?
Oh, I'm feeling it out. I'm being a little coy.
No, that's okay. Give the spicy take.
I don't want. I'm not totally
we can
jumping.
be another. The Seahawks Twitter can hate us just like they're hating Pete Carroll right now.
Are you playing
Shane
footsie
Waldron
with the trolls?
I'm playing. No one's trolled me. I mean, it's all.
That's good.
And there's some people that are strangers that have liked what I've posted and stuff. So it's baby steps. I got really excited about it, and then all of a sudden I started feeling a little bit weird, like I'm a middle-aged man on Twitter.
Yeah, well, you are a middle-aged man on Twitter.
Spoiler, Curtis.
Oh.
Spoiler.
Also joining us today is Alana. How are you doing over there, Alana?
I'm doing all right. How's it going on your end?
Yeah, no, I'm good. My cat has decided to join me, so we got a fifth member for our Dorks on Sports. And last but not least, we have Millie over here. Millie, my condolences. Derrick Henry, just like he ran all over our Seahawks, ran all over your fantasy team. How are you holding up?
He sure did. Not great. Not great.
And our hearts.
That particular league, my opponent also had Cooper Kupp. It was a real bad day. The best days, the best weeks in fantasy are the ones where you have the second most points in the league, but you still lose. Yeah. It was one of those that hurt.
Yeah, that's a rough time.
And Daniel, I have to tell you one thing real quick, because I was asked to clarify that I do in fact have 5 fantasy football championships.
Okay, yeah.
1 fantasy baseball championship for the 1 year I played that.
Look out. Millie is
multi-talented.
She's the fantasy queen. All right. Well, maybe we can bring some of those championships over to our Seahawks season. This last Sunday, though, was rough. Going into this game, we had lots of momentum, right? We had soundly destroyed the Colts. The pass rush was dominant. Russ was carving up defenses in this newly creative Shane Waldron offense. We're going in. It's a home game. If we get a win, Russell Wilson gets 100 wins in his career. And we go in and the game starts going like it did with the Colts, right? We go into halftime 24-9, and it looks like we're on our way to cruising to another victory. Come out of halftime, we hand the game back to the Titans, bring it into overtime, and as we all know, the Titans kicked that field goal, and we gave that game away right there in front of the 12s on the opening day. Millie, these Seahawks, are they closer to what we saw in game 1 against the Colts? Or are they maybe a little bit more like what we saw against the Titans on Sunday?
I am going to stay positive and say they're the team we saw in week 1. And I think the sad truth of it is we needed that week 2 to remind everyone that it's not that easy. Yeah. And that you have to stick to the script. And you have to play the disciplined ball that your coach told you to play. Can't get stupid penalties. You have to take the check down. All those lessons that worked out beautifully in week 1, that it felt like every time we slipped back into old habits from last season, we were reminded why we ended up where we ended up last season. So I'm going to remain hopeful, but that was a sad, sad fourth quarter.
It was a really sloppy fourth quarter. There were moments in the third quarter that I think was pretty great. I mean, that long touchdown was fun. It all kind of started unraveling when we missed that extra point. And then, of course, Derrick Henry broke containment and ran one off for 60 yards and a touchdown. when, if it wasn't for that 60-yard touchdown, we would have held Derrick Henry to 3.5 yards a carry, which is, I mean, that's pretty for all of the game until he broke that containment. We had held him pretty much where we wanted to. Curtis, what do you think happened? Why did we lay that egg? We were doing so well in that first half, and then we just kind of go out in a sloppy play and uninspired. Like even the coaching just kind of seemed a little lazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a team effort from the players and the coaches to an extent. I think they got caught up on hubris. I mean,
yeah,
the broken containment on Derrick Henry. There was two times where it happened, where he was. I look back at the plays where he was. It looked like it was sort of, it was kind of student body right, like they were trying to run to the right side, and
a little misdirection
of their line.
Yeah,
and it was, and
it looked like Jamal kind of bit on it.
Well, he did on the second one, but what happened? There was two touchdown runs that Henry had that I noted where he was going right. The defense was the linebackers and the defensive linemen were crashing in that direction. And it was almost kind of like rope-a-dope. Like I kind of feel like that might've been what was happening. Like the Tennessee Titans might've gotten wind of how Seattle was filling their gaps and how they were looking to take him away. And they were looking for opportunities, I feel like, to probably use the aggression, the intensity of the aggression of how they were hitting the gaps in their fits.
I don't think it was even like
touchdown. I was just going to say the first touchdown run that I noted was in the red zone, and I think it was about a 12-yard scamper into the end zone. And Darrell Taylor was supposed to set the edge at the Sam linebacker position, and he sort of floated inside when he thought the run was going that way. And Henry just on a dime cut back the other way, and it was an easy scamper in. Jamal Adams did the same thing.
Jamal Adams did, and then Trey Flowers, who was supposed to be the guy, to back him up in case something like that happened, also was out of position.
But if I'm going to really blame Adams on that one, because if he wouldn't have shot that gap to try and make a play, to try and make a big splash, maybe he was feeling the impression, the pressure to impress the 12s and all that sort of business, and get them all fired up. He wanted to make a big play, it looked like, and he went for it. But if he would have stayed right there, he would have been there to set the edge. And then it would have been between Derrick Henry and Jamal Adams and Trey Flowers. And then you would have had the free safety Diggs filling right there. Like Henry might have gotten, a 4 to 6 to 8 yard gain out of it, but he would have been slowed down and stopped.
Right.
And so it's all, I mean, it's really hubris. I mean, it's just like, hey, here's my opportunity to make a big play. But, the reserve defensive tackle, Robert Kimdichie, got in there, and I saw him blow through a gap to try and make a big splash play in the backfield. And he completely whiffed on Henry, and Henry took it right up inside to where he should have been occupying, to slow him down. And that was like a 6 to 8 yard gain right there. And it was just, I think it was just defenders doing too much. And I've actually taken issue with the fact that right now the Seahawks are choosing to only carry 3 defensive tackles, and they're good. And Puna and Al Woods, oh my God, played marvelously, given the circumstances, but they're like big men. that are being
And-
asked to play a lot of minutes. And I just feel like that puts so much stress on the defense for 4
Yeah.
quarters. And
I-
guys start feeling like they need to take chances and stuff.
I noticed that as well. And I mean, I think it was partly by design, right? The game plan was clearly designed to stop Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And you need those big guys to do it.
But they didn't have
but-
enough, I didn't feel like.
But I think when you're only going to like carry 3 big defensive tackles and you can't really rotate them out through the game, you're asking a lot, and they're going to get a little tired at the end. And that's when running backs like Derrick Henry are able to take their chances. I know Pete Carroll, mentioned Adams in his presser, after game presser, about playing a little too aggressively. He took some shots at Russell Wilson that you've never really heard Pete Carroll take. In fact, his whole post-game press conference seemed a little uncharacteristic from Pete Carroll. He seemed, dare I say, impatient. And
Well, I got a question.
I don't know. What's that?
I got one question I want to throw out to the 3
Yeah.
of you right now, because this has been on my mind
Yeah.
for the last 2.5, 3 days now after the game. Do you feel that Russell Wilson is addicted to the big play? Do you feel like he has a big play addiction? Do you feel like
I call it more of a big play erection. Like, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you can take
I don't
it there
think he
too.
has to
But
have it. I think he wants it so badly that it's just spewing out of it.
so I mean, I'm coming from the perspective of, I mean, you folks kind of know my story a little bit. Over 10 years ago, I quit drinking. Not to go into all my sort of past, but I had a drinking problem, so I stopped. And so one thing I feel like I'm able over the last 10 years to sort of detect is if somebody has characteristics of an addict.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you think of the pantheon of big Russell Wilson moments. I mean, he's had so many spectacular big plays from.
He had like 5 of them on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of them were blown coverages.
Just
like,
but
he
good
just, I
quarterbacks
just
take
feel
advantage of
like
that.
there's some sort of wiring inside him. I mean, my God, in the last 6 minutes of the game and into the 4th quarter, I mean, Carroll was right.
He was right. No, Carroll was right.
The whole purpose of this offense is to get rid of the ball quickly. And, that one pass in overtime to Lockett on the sideline when he was in double coverage, and he had floating right into the flat Chris Carson, that if he would have dumped the ball out to, that would have been like a 10-yard gain out of bounds, and it would have kept the drive going. It's just like, I just think it's something I don't definitively have an answer, but I'm very curious to see in this new adaptation of this supposed Ram style offense, if whether or not we get into moments in games where Russ gets away from it.
I think, I have a couple of thoughts that are kind of related to this. I think one of the main things that I'm hearing in this conversation is a lot of granular detail about how the Seahawks failed to do things. And what I'm not hearing, and what I think is true of this game, is the perspective that the Titans took that from us. We didn't give it to them. They took it from us, because that's how that team is built. That team is built to have Derrick Henry run and run and run and run and run and run and run. And then by the end of the 3rd quarter, middle of the 3rd quarter, your players are gassed.
Well, it's exactly what we did with Marshawn Lynch when he was on the team.
Exactly. And Derrick Henry is Marshawn Lynch plus 40 pounds of muscle?
And a little more agile. Yeah.
And a little more agile and a little bit more like, I will run through you, not just into you.
Yeah.
He also caught some passes, which is something he's never gotten to do
right
in the last couple seasons. And suddenly they're throwing him the ball and he's got 6 catches.
Yeah, and I think that's important to remember. This is a team that made the playoffs this last year. This is a team that surprised the entire NFL by running to the AFC Championship 2 years ago. Derrick Henry, if we didn't live in a world where the quarterback always wins the MVP, he would be up for MVP almost every year. Probably from 2 years ago to 4 years from now. He is a special back. Mm-hmm. And the in addition to him, they've got AJ Brown and Julio Jones. Julio Jones is legitimately, from a talent perspective, the greatest wide receiver of all time. I think, Jerry Rice has more stats and more Super Bowl wins, and it's legitimate to call him the greatest of all time. But Julio Jones,
he had a Hall of Fame quarterback throwing to him.
Exactly. And Julio Jones has not had that. He is amazingly talented. So did we lose the game? Yes, but it was because the Titans won the game. The other part of that, which is a little bit more in the granular detail, is I think for me, the worst part of the game was how we just forgot that we had tight ends on our team. We had one tight end. Crazy. They threw it to Everett once in the game. Disley didn't touch the ball, right? Maybe he did. Yeah. And
Carroll said that there was plans. This was another sort of, I think, kind of, sideways sort of slight maybe at the quarterback. He said, in his post-game press conference, maybe it was the next day, they had plans drawn up. They had plays out there on the field to go to the tight end, and the quarterback went somewhere else.
Yeah, and I don't. If one side or the other was responsible for losing the game, it was the offense. I totally agree with that concept. Like, did we give up a 60-yard touchdown to Derrick Henry? Yes, but it's Derrick fucking Henry.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Right.
We're gonna do that. Every team in the NFL is gonna do that at the end of the third quarter because it's Derrick fucking Henry. But missing anything that was in that 10 to 15 range, where the tight ends are typically hanging out. That's choices, that's bad play design, or that's Russell Wilson not doing it and having, as you said, an addiction or erection for long plays. I want to.
There were two opportunities.
Is because we had it and then we dropped it, and it's also because Derrick Henry ran right through
it. He ran right all over that cage.
Oh yeah. Go ahead,
there were two opportunities the offense could have won this game. They had a lead with 5.5 minutes left in the quarter. You go into your 4-minute offense and you check down the field and you run down some clock and you don't give the ball back and maybe you get some points at the end of it. The Seahawks I think they went 3 and out.
Yeah, I think every drive in the fourth quarter was a 3 and out, wasn't it?
Yeah. So now, we give the ball back. They get another, we go into overtime. The defense does its job. We get the ball. It's in Russell Wilson's hand. This is his time. This is what Russell Wilson is born to do. And he takes a downfield shot at Tyler Lockett. It doesn't happen. He takes another downfield shot.
The running back
where he had the
wide open in front of him.
He takes another shot at a hobbled DK Metcalf, who couldn't make the play because his knee was banged up. When he had the tight end, 4 to 6 yards. And then he held onto the ball looking for somebody. And let's be honest, that was a safety. They were really lucky to even get another opportunity.
Yeah.
This was for Russell Wilson and the offense. This was like a tale of two games. We talked about this in our group chat. There was that drive that closed out the first half. They had 1:04 on the clock and they just went down that field, checking down that ball as fast as they could, up tempo, and got into the end zone.
Yeah.
Why didn't we do that again? I just don't understand it. I don't know if Russell in that moment where he was feeling pressure, it just kind of went to what he's been doing for the past 10 years and these, Darrell Bevel and Schottenheimer offenses where he kind of feels like he has to do the Russell Wilson scramble and play some backyard ball. But I have to believe that Shane Waldron and Pete Carroll had a better game plan, for those moments.
Well, was it in the fourth quarter and overtime where I think it was 3rd and 2 and he tries to throw a bomb to like DK?
That was in the third quarter, and it was that had me pulling my hair out. I mean, I was just kind of like
3rd and 2.
You
We're
needed
just
2
trying
yards.
to kill the clock. We've
Yeah.
got a comfortable lead. Like, let's just
just
slow
get
it all down. Your defense needs a rest. Like, there's a million reasons to not even try to score in a couple of these circumstances. And
Totally.
to just keep clock and move the ball. And here he is going for these bombs and looking for these long plays when exactly there's this check down opportunity. And then when he does do a check down, you're like, everyone was open. Where is this super smart quarterback that we all love so much, who's looking like a rookie in overtime, just throwing the ball anywhere instead of taking those little run plays and giving himself some space? And he ends up pinning, the punter into the back of the end zone, giving them great field position in overtime, which is always a huge mistake. It's just painful to watch.
And how is it that we were up by 15 and Carson didn't even really touch the ball in the second half? Like, he had 31 yards
on 3rd and 2, and they tried to run it in a very Brian Schottenheimer like obvious. That was the other thing that really.
Sure,
I mean,
but
I
we
think
didn't.
the thing that
even
probably
try to commit to the run game is what I was saying.
Yeah, even when we had a healthy lead. I
Yeah.
agree. So my question is, Millie, are these problems fixable?
Oh yeah, 100%. There's one of the big things that also stands out to me in this game are the penalties. Anytime you're getting penalties, that means you could have fixed it. It means it was avoidable.
Yeah.
Because, okay, look, that taunting call was absolutely ridiculous.
Nonsense.
That was nonsense. That was a terrible call.
It was a horrible turn at a horrible time. And I think that they ended up getting at least a field goal out of that. So that one seemed a bit unfair, but I think it was Brooks pushed out of bounds, like late hits,
and got benched for
roughing the passer. That was just completely avoidable. We had 2 roughing the passer calls. That's the stuff that you fix and you win this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I know, like with a Pete Carroll team, you're always going to get some penalties. Pete Carroll likes his teams to play just on that edge. And I think Sunday, we found out what happens when they kind of go over. There were a couple times, I think Adams got one on a roughing the passer when they had made like a crucial stop, and it ended up extending it. That kind of stuff, I am confident Pete can kind of rein in. I know there was probably some things going on. They're jacked up to play in front of the 12s. The 12s were going crazy, and I know there was a lot of emotion going into that game. And I'm hopeful that can get reined in. I would be remiss if I didn't say that a lot of our vets played out of their minds. Bobby Wagner had a career game. He had 20 tackles, which you never want to see your linebacker get 20 tackles, because that means that offense was on the field a lot. But he was making stops. He was in his assignments. He was getting sacks. Tyler Lockett had almost 200 yards. Russell Wilson, aside from some of the dumb drives he had at the end of the game, played out of his mind. I know he took advantage of some broken coverage, but he was great up until that. He was a surgeon in that 1-minute offense at the end of the half. And that's the kind of stuff that gets me really excited. I thought the vets played really well. I'm hopeful that a lot of this stuff about the reason why Derrick Henry was able to break containment and the Titans were taking advantage of aggressiveness and stuff like that is all just because we have kind of a young defense right now.
Mhm.
And hopefully, when the LOB was young, they kind of did the same dumb stuff. Earl Thomas was, known for it in his first year. And so I don't know. Hopefully they can calm down and we can turn it into a disciplined team, because I think the Seahawks showed in their entire game against the Colts, and then for at least half of the games against the Titans, that they can be an extremely dominant, balanced team when they're playing sound football and everything is clicking. Unfortunately, the rest of the NFC West won their games. Seattle is now in fourth place.
Two games.
This is 2 games, yes, but and I'm not saying they're out of it. What I am saying is that in historically the toughest division in the NFL, there is so little margin for error. And I'm worried that, game 17, we're going to look back and go, wow, we gave that one away. And that was, between wild card and hosting, a home field playoffs. Curtis, how do you think we're stacking up with the NFC West? The Cardinals had another good win. The Rams, they had like a C+B game against the Colts.
Yeah.
The 49ers, they look good, but I don't know. It's not like they're blowing teams out.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think we still stack up pretty well. And I feel like Seattle probably still has the advantage because regardless of how Russ finished the game, he is still clearly the best quarterback in the division, I feel like. And I feel confident in that. I'll just go back to the game. The thing that really, and I really do, I appreciate what you said, Alana, that it was not so much that we gave the game up, but it was how Tennessee played. But I really feel like, God, I feel like we gave that game up because if Jamal just would have played containment on that play, if Darrell Taylor would have played containment on that other touchdown run, if Russ would have found the checkdowns, the biggest thing for me is where was all the motion plays that we saw against the Colts? Where was all the misdirection, the little, the slot receiver going back and forth, just the little wrinkles that, that got, the defenders second guessing a little. That's like the staple of the Rams offense that we're supposed to be inheriting and taking on up here. And I felt like I was largely watching a Brian Schottenheimer offense.
Yeah.
You know what?
And
I think
so
it might be,
like,
Curtis. I'm
what's
thinking the fact that they haven't played in front of fans for 2 years. I think that's probably the main factor in all of that. That they're trying. That there was a lot of noise. There were a lot of amped up fans. Russell wanted to deliver the deep ball to please the fans and really have that moment. Jamal wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And Kandiche wanted to do the same thing. I think that we've been in a year and a half of football without having people there going, do it for us.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you have this just ejaculation of emotion at a football game. Daniel, you were there. Like
it was crazy.
Feel like, yeah.
It was jacked up. And I kind of feel like coming into the second half, there was a lot of hubris going on. I think the team was kind of like, we are going to get this huge win for the fans. And I think there was just a lot of emotion and their focus waned. I'm looking forward to the game next week. Minnesota is another tough opponent. I was saying, before this season started, that if we, won one and lost one in these first 2 games, we were going to be doing okay. We have a tough September and October of teams. And, if we can win more than we lose, I think we're going to be doing okay. But it's not out of the realm of possibility that we're going to drop a couple. I want to tell you what surprised me this week. because I was going through the stats, and the first 3 receivers with the most yards is Deebo Samuel of the 49ers, Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks, and Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams. That's how tough the NFC West is. The NFC West, by the way, is known for their defense, and it's their offenses that are coming out slinging. I think that's pretty impressive. Alana, what has kind of surprised you around the league on Sunday?
The way that the Raiders are winning, like in week 1, it was that bananas end of the game against was it the Ravens? And they just pulled that game out of nowhere. And then they beat the Steelers, and the Steelers, like I was not watching that game. I was watching the Rams Colts. So I was following it on ESPN, and ESPN was breaking its back to pretend like the Steelers were competing the entire
in the game.
It was like Steelers and Raiders are fighting for control of the game, and the Raiders were up by 14 at the time. And I was like, I mean, like, you have this headline and then the scores right there. It's like, it looks like the Raiders are doing all right. It's like Steelers.
They're fun to watch too.
Yeah, totally. And don't get me wrong, John Gruden's, I can't stand that guy. And Derek Carr is kind of like a weird robot. But it's fun to have a team in Vegas. It's fun that these fans are so into it. I'm enjoying that storyline.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I remember when the Raiders were good in the 80s, and to me, it's always fun. I think the NFL is fun when the Raiders are good. Yeah. Millie, what surprised you on Sunday?
Kansas City lost.
Yeah, that was a fun game. Lamar kind of outplaying Mahomes there.
You know what was amazing?
Lamar looked a lot more like Lamar.
Yes, and what was amazing too was watching the pregame hype, and everybody's saying, it's just not the year. You're never going to beat Kansas City. Maybe next year, Lamar. And the pundits are all picking their favorites. And I think it was Mike Tirico was the only one who was like, you know what? I'm going for the Ravens. And the Hubs was like, me too. I was like, okay, babe. He was right. They were right. I mean, it was fun to watch because they were truly fighting this curse that they felt. Like you could feel it. And I wasn't necessarily cheering on the Ravens in that one, but after a while, it was just like, all right, I'm gonna hop on the Ravens side today because this is too much fun to watch him just come back over and over. They could have lost that game so many times, and they never ever gave up. That was an impressive effort from a team that is plagued by injury, plagued by doubt, and that was cool. That was cool.
That was really fun. I think the Ravens and Kansas City is going to be a fun rivalry for, years to come. Curtis,
you guys, I'm sorry. I got one more play. I just want to know if you guys actually saw this moment. If you all saw this moment, where, because I just saw it for the first time, where the Rams blocked their own punt. Or was it a field goal? It was a punt, right? They blocked their own punt. I mean, they still won their game. But I just saw it today, and it just made me laugh.
That's good. Hey, anytime the Rams can beat themselves, I'll take that as a win.
For sure.
Yeah. Curtis, what surprised you?
I'm going to go out to left field on this one a little bit. Don't look now, but Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers are 2-0. They beat up soundly on the Saints that beat up soundly on the Packers the week before. And Darnold has been looking pretty good.
Football Outsiders has him at the top of the DVOA.
And I kind of pulling for this guy because I thought he got hosed a bit in New York for the Jets. I thought they gave up on him too soon.
Yeah, and how's Zach Wilson doing over there?
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
surprised. You know, he's playing for the Jets.
And it's not
I
like
know.
they have a difficult schedule coming up. They got the Texans and then the Cowboys and then the Eagles. They could start off 5-0.
You know what? And I remember Darnold from the USC days, and he came up here and whipped on the Huskies. My Huskies, soundly like, God, when was that game, Dan? Was that like 5 years ago or something like that? And to me, he looked like an athletic version of Brady. You know, I just thought he was good. He was like the surest thing out of that draft class. So, you know, people have just been labeling him a bust. And, you know, in that whole weird Russell Wilson trade thing, there was some speculations floated out there that maybe if Seattle were to deal Wilson, that they would be interested in Darnold because Carroll liked him and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people on the sports radio end in this town were just laughing at it, but like, I don't know. I mean, who's laughing now a little bit? I mean, Darnold's a little bit better than we thought he is, you know. I'd like to see him keep it up. I'd like to see him, you know.
I'm rooting for Darnold. I kind of like it. I think when he came into the league, he was young and he was a little immature, and I think he had a lot to learn. I think he's one of those quarterbacks that could have benefited from sitting for a couple of years and really learning the X's and O's of an NFL offense.
I think he was only 20 years old when he came out.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
Yeah. And
drinking it.
I'm rooting for him. I hope he does well in Carolina, and I'm glad he's getting a second chance. And I think Zach Wilson is looking, and he's like, oh man, is that going to be me in 4 years?
Yeah, I got drafted by the
Yes,
Jets.
yes, it will be you because that's what the Jets do.
Yeah. The other thing that surprised me was Carson Wentz having 2 ankles. Oh no, wait,
I know.
that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all. Or Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdowns. Oh, wait a minute. That doesn't surprise me either. And then we have Jameis Winston throwing 2 picks and 0 touchdowns and like 50%. Oh, hold on. We're going back like 3 years. Yeah.
So I'm gonna one thing that surprises me too, real quick, is that I had an emotionally positive reaction to something that happened to the Green Bay Packers, which was, I mean, you saw that Aaron Jones scored 4 touchdowns. He was wearing a necklace that had his dad's ashes in it, and he lost it on the field. And I was just reading an article today. One of the key trainer for the Packers combed the field until 2 a.m. until he found the necklace.
I love that. That's a great story.
It's a great story. And Aaron Jones, like, for as douchey as Aaron Rodgers is, Aaron Jones seems like he's a wonderful human being. And I'm very glad, like, Packers fans, I'm praising you for the first time ever. I'm glad Aaron Jones got his dad's ashes back.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, don't judge the Packers based on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
just I hate the Packers. they're like one of my, aside from the Lakers, they're my least favorite team in sports.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to next Sunday. So before we get to our prediction for how the Seahawks are going to fare against the Minnesota Vikings on the road, Millie, how do we do from last week? Do you have those predictions?
I do. And no one did well.
No, nobody.
Because of course, first of all, you know, we all picked the Seahawks to win.
Yeah.
The highlights, I would say, and I may be biased, is that I had us only winning by 1 point.
Okay.
And
we lost
Curtis had it as a much higher scoring game than
I thought it was going to be a high scoring game.
Curtis had it at 34-27.
How does my prediction line up if the game had ended at halftime?
What was the halftime score?
24-9.
24-9.
No, you said 21-17.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
And for the record, Alana had 24-17.
Okay.
So we'll I'll put it up on the dork board when y'all pick your Minnesota picks, and we'll see if anyone does better.
Yeah, well, just like the Seahawks are going to look at their bad score from Sunday, I guess we're looking at our own.
If nothing else, we'll just hope that Minnesota continues to miss field goals at the most opportune moments.
Well, that's how it goes with Minnesota and Seattle, right?
Yeah.
So we're going into Minnesota. Minnesota has been good for Pete Carroll teams. I think we've won that series. I think he's beat them all. I think
7-0.
7-0. That's right. We're going into Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, I thought, has been playing pretty well. I think he's been playing efficient ball. I have been pretty impressed. That defense is suspect, and the corners especially. And I think Russell Wilson can really take advantage of that, and I think he will. I think there's going to be just a lot of big plays. On the other hand, Kirk Cousins is the kind of quarterback that can pick on our own backfield. I'm a little scared about that, but it is Minnesota, and Pete Carroll seems to be in their playbook a little bit. Alana, give me your prediction. We're on the road.
I do think it's a high scoring game. I think both defenses are going to be tested a lot. I think I am, like I said, of the opinion similar to Millie of thinking that we're more the team we were against the Colts and the first half of the Titans game than we are the team in the second half of the Titans game. So I think the Seahawks pull it out. I think it's close, and I'm going to go with 35-30 Seahawks.
Okay. Alana.
Oh, and I also think Lockett has another 2 touchdowns and rings up 175.
Oh, bold prediction. I like it. This is the year of Tyler Lockett.
Oh,
I'm here
God.
for it. Yeah. I think people are keying in on DK, and Tyler Lockett is just taking advantage of that. Yeah. Millie, what's your prediction?
Struggling with this one a little bit because I believe in this team, but they make me real nervous. I just want to say that I am concerned that we need to prepare for Dalvin Cook in the way we could not stop Derrick Henry. I think that's a real concern for me. Mm-hmm. Still going to pick the Seahawks to win because we're all a bunch of homers. But I think, as usual, it's going to come down to a Minnesota field goal. So my bold prediction is Seahawks 24, Minnesota 21.
All right, Curtis, what do you got?
I think it's going to be a shootout between both the offenses. Both the defenses have their warts. I think the Minnesota defense has shown more warts than the Seattle defense has, despite the second half of last Sunday's game in Seattle. I think Seattle gets back to the style of offense that they played in Indianapolis. I think they start seeing more of the quick passes and the motions and the misdirections and the jet sweeps and stuff, even if they don't have Eskridge in the game. I think Seattle wins a close shootout, 31-27. I think in the last waning minutes of the game, Kirk Cousins gets picked off by Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
He's kind of a check down artist sometimes. And sometimes that ball, that, if it caroons off the hands, it's there to grab. And I think I still believe in the Seattle defense. I think that the mistakes that they made last Sunday, I think, are correctable mistakes. And I think they show up big in the end and we win.
I agree. My prediction is very close to yours, Curtis. I'm predicting 30-28. I also think we're going to get an old school shootout in the OK Corral. I think our pass rush is going to wake up. At moments on this last Sunday, it was very good. And I think it's going to stay consistent. I don't believe in the line, particularly the left tackle and the guard of Minnesota, and I think our Seattle defense is going to take advantage of that a little bit. I think we're going to get a couple takeaways. I also think we're going to get an interception. I think we're going to get a fumble. I think it's going to come down to Seahawks have the ball and run out the clock, and we end the game in a victory formation.
Nice.
Yeah.
The big news today that I heard from the Pete Carroll press conference is we're going to see more playing time out of Alton Robinson, who had that.
He earned it. He was easily. He had some of the best
PFF
plays on
been
Sunday.
Off the charts for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right. So that's the Seahawks. The other Seattle team, we have, we have meaningful games in September out of our Seattle Mariners, which we, in the last 20 years hasn't been a thing that we've said. However, they don't control their own destiny anymore for those playoffs. It's looking like it's probably not going to happen, but there are some really nice things happening on that team, and they're getting some really fun wins. I think hitting bullpen, some of the starting pitchers are just out of this world. They've made the best moves this season than they have in like the last 25 years. They've got some very, very exciting players. Alana, you actually went to a game this week, right?
Yeah, well, no, it was last week.
Last week.
Yeah, I saw the last game in the Red Sox series, and the end of that game was just super disappointing.
Yeah.
They were, we went into the 10th inning. The Red Sox scored a run almost immediately and then loaded the bases. And I was with my friend. I was like, we got to get out of here because I wanted to beat traffic. And the Red Sox hung 7 runs on us in the top of the 10th.
Yeah, that's
so I was like, yeah, that was the right choice to leave. But they're up 4-1 tonight. They won the previous 2 games against Oakland.
It's been fun.
It's been great. Like if they win tonight, I think they'll be 2 back in the loss column for a wild card spot. If they can win tomorrow, like I'm dreaming of sweeping the A's in Oakland. Like that's big. We'll win the season series. If we do that, I think we might have already won the season series. I think there's still a shot. Like
some things have to break our way, but yeah, there's still a shot.
But the Yankees and Blue Jays and Red Sox, there's some variation of them playing one another.
Yeah.
I believe. And the Blue Jays lost today to the Rays. Yeah, the Blue Jays, I don't know. I think there's a chance. I want to be a naive little girl and just dream about it happening. So let me be that. Yeah, the Blue Jays play New York for a series, so we'll see.
Yeah. So Millie, it would be a really great Cinderella story if we can sneak in a wild card and go deep into the playoffs. But there's still some pieces missing on this team. Going into next season, what are the kind of moves you think the clubhouse needs to make this a truly complete team that can compete at the highest level?
Sure. I don't know. I mean, I think they just need to build on what they've got going. The trades that they made, we all, I think most of Seattle held their breath every time one happened because we weren't sure if it was a good idea. And for the most part, these trades have really worked out. So I think a lot of it is trusting the decisions that are being made. And I mean, as always, you just want to, I think we just need one more starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Who can really deliver and can go, 6 or 7 innings without having to call in the bullpen, early consistently. I think that might be, to me, that's probably the biggest missing piece. We just need one more really solid starting pitcher. And I think that's the difference.
I actually agree with you. And I think the clubhouse agrees with you too, just based on, sort of the latest moves that have been going on. I think they're one really quality starting pitcher and a power hitter away from really being a team, that's going to take their division and go deep into the playoffs. Curtis, what have you been? You've been watching some games this season?
Mhm.
Have you been having fun? Like, I know that you're a bit of a fair weather
Fair weather Mariner fan.
Mariner fan.
I'm not ashamed to admit it in this town, but
That's okay. No, you don't
they're
have
getting
to.
me back on board. They're getting me back on board. But T-Mobile is it's a pitcher's park.
It is a
It
pitcher's
was a
park.
it was a park, I think, intended to have the Randy Johnson types and
Absolutely.
place, smack ball in. So I just feel like, yeah, like it would be nice to see the Mariners go aggressive to shore up, the pitching rotation. If they get another big bat in, great. But I think they got a lot of bats, right?
They've got some great hitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would just shore up on the pitching and make it, make it a tough club to score runs on.
Yeah.
And that's how they were back when they were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Go do that.
All right. Well, go M's.
Defense wins championships.
That's right. Moving away from sports, we always like to end our podcast with some non-sports dorkiness. Alana, what do you got for us? What are you dorking out on this week?
We've been watching Reservation Dogs.
Excellent show.
It's excellent. It's the spiritual successor of Atlanta, I think,
Yes.
in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And I would not be surprised to see both Bear and Laura Dannon getting snatched up by Marvel out of this to play various Marvel characters, because they're both excellent performers.
Fantastic.
And I'm also I watched the trailer for the Tragedy of Macbeth the other day, the Joel Coen Macbeth with Denzel and Frances McDormand, and
produced by A24.
Yeah,
like it's got all the ingredients for just a great movie.
And I showed it to Beth, and she was like, if you don't know what this is, then you're not going to know what it is from the trailer, because it's just the "something wicked this way comes" line, with just various shots of things in black and white, and I'm like, wow, gonna have to watch that. So
I wonder what happens.
Yeah.
Have you finished Reservation Dogs?
We just finished episode 4, which was the one where his dad was supposed to come home. Yeah.
It gets great. It was a surprise show to me. When I saw the previews, before the show came out, I was very excited, and it exceeded my expectations. It's all filmed on location in Oklahoma. They found non-actors who like the kid who plays Cheese. This is his first acting job. Like he's great.
He is great.
I'm in love with it, and I recommend it to anybody. It's on Hulu, co-produced by Taika Waititi, who is Hollywood's kind of like it man right now, and it's some good stuff. Millie, what are you dorking out on?
Well, I'm dorking out over something I haven't started yet.
Awesome.
Tell me more.
I'm really excited to start The Last Man. Why The Last Man? Yes.
I watched the pilot episode and I thought it was very well done. Are you familiar with the source material?
Yeah, which is why I'm excited. I didn't get very far with it. I only read, I think, the first little compilation comic. So a graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. But I am looking forward to seeing it interpreted for the screen. Because I only got that first snippet, I don't know where the story goes. So I'm excited to experience it through this television series.
It's making me a little anxious, to be perfectly honest. I've seen all 4 episodes, because the core premise of it is inherently transphobic. It's basically saying that that
there's a Y
biological
gene, and right.
Yeah, there's a biological essentialism to existence, which is
So
if you have a Y chromosome, you're a man.
this is excellent. I want your perspective on this. Because you're correct. You're absolutely right. And I think that comic is very dated in terms of gender. I don't want to say politics, gender understanding as we kind of know it today, right?
Yeah.
When I watched the pilot episode, it looked like they were kind of bringing the story into a modern lens. And I was very curious on if they were going to continue that or if this is just some thing that they're throwing at us that's like Twitter, don't come after us.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me about it is that they are, by definition, if you have that premise and you're trying to do something that kind of fights against that premise, you're trying to have it both ways, right? It does. I think it kind of does have it both ways. They introduce trans male characters, trans man characters into the narrative that are incredibly well developed and very interesting, and probably my favorite character in the show. But it's still at its core a transphobic concept. And so that for me, it's a pull. And I'm watching it like a removed from it, emotionally removed from it, because I'm monitoring it because I know so many people who deeply love the comic and who are so excited about this TV show. And I'm like, I really want to see it. I really want to see him have a trans woman in the show. I know that by definition they can't, but that doesn't mean anything. Make it work.
And listen, sci-fi, you can fudge science all the time and it doesn't mean anything. We'll go with it.
And Millie, I'm sorry to jump in on your topic, and I don't mean to swamp you with this. So it's been on my mind a lot too.
Well, I'm excited to give it a try, and I had not had that perspective on it. So I'm actually really happy that you brought it up, because I think it's important, and it's another lens to experience it through and make and sort of and judge and understand it. And so that's I'm really happy to have gotten your perspective. It's kind of a cool
I'm kind of excited to watch it.
Watching something like that is keeping that kind of a perspective. I'm going to change the subject because there is one other thing I'm dorking out over that I wasn't going to tell you all about, because we all have our reality show shame. But I have loved and hated and loved again the series Big Brother for 20 years. And we record them. So I have tonight's recorded. We're almost to the finale. And this is a very exciting season because it is 100% that an African-American is going to win. And it's never happened in 23 seasons of this. Yeah.
Wow.
So it has been a really cool and interesting game. In order to make this happen, 6 African-American players bonded on day one and said, we're going to do this. And not only is it happening, but an alliance of 6 has never made it to the end.
That's amazing.
So I'm very excited to see who wins in the end. There's a lot of really great players. So I'm really hoping someone great wins. It looks likely.
Who are you rooting for? Give us a name.
Xavier.
What's that?
Xavier.
Why is Xavier winning?
He's played the best game. He's a physical threat. He has made lots of friends. He is, I'm not gonna lie, he's easy on the ice. Never hurts in that game.
No, absolutely not.
He was throwing competitions in the beginning. People didn't even realize it. The game really does rely on your social as well as your physical and your mental as well. So he's my favorite to win. I also, I don't want to give out any spoilers. The other person who probably should have won, who was the architect of the 6, who are called the Cookout, by the way. If she could have found a way to the end, I don't think anybody would have let her get there. Then they should have the game to her on a silver platter because she made it happen.
Good for her. I think that's a great story. Xavier, if you're out there and if you're listening, Millie thinks you're gonna win. You should come on to this podcast. We'd really like to have you. Millie has a crush on you. She thinks you're very handsome. Devin, stop. You should have stopped listening at this point. I'm very sorry. I love that. No, go Big Brother. That's great. Curtis, what are you dorking out on?
Millie, how far are you on Ted Lasso right now?
Oh, that was gonna be my dork out.
You can do it too.
I can just sign off early, y'all. We actually just tonight
Just
watched,
push the
season
mute
2,
yourself.
episode 1.
Okay.
Oh, you're in season 2 now. Okay, well, I'm going to try and do this without any spoilers at all. Millie, you are going to get to season 2, episode 9. I'm not going to say anything about this. I'm not going to say the central storyline of anything about this because you're not there with us yet. I will just say that this episode was so amazing to me in a standalone story. Specifically, I mean, talk about relatability. This reminded me of my life 20 years ago, where I was living on Capitol Hill, downtown Seattle, Washington, hitting the clubs, doing the
Getting in
after
trouble.
hour parties.
Yeah.
Some girl driving me nuts, and me questioning my whole entire existence, and almost getting the crap kicked out of me.
Yeah.
Or maybe getting the crap kicked out of me. I don't know, because it was probably ended up in a blackout drunk that I didn't really remember the next day. This episode just epitomizes the hero's journey, and I thought it was amazing. I saw a couple folks on my social media platforms going, meh, and I'm kind of like, oh, that's cool, but
I think
that
the
episode
mad
was my
people.
spirit animal.
I think the mad people on that one is just that it isn't a part of the central storyline of the season.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then I'm
that's
like,
fine.
so what? Go fuck yourself. Like,
Yeah, who cares? Yeah,
There was so much special sauce in that episode.
Exactly.
I just absolutely loved it.
I loved it too.
with a character that I think we've all just kind of wanted a little inside.
Yeah.
I agree. Speaking of Ted Lasso won big on the Emmys, which was really fun, including surprisingly to me, Roy Kent, winning an Emmy. And I was really happy about that. Roy Kent, who I don't know.
He's here.
It's a toss up between Roy Kent and Coach Beard for me as maybe my favorite character on that show.
God, I love Jamie Tart, and I think that actor that plays Jamie Tart
he's terrific.
He is terrific to watch.
Yeah. There's a part of me that's like, I wonder if that guy really is Jamie Tart.
Yeah, I don't know.
Does he have
Have you listened to any interviews with Brett Goldstein, who plays Roy Kent?
I haven't.
His voice is a little bit more up here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he is the goofiest, like cuddliest type of human.
That's really funny. Playing just the surliest.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm so happy to be around you all. There is a 6-minute video of him doing the entire Muppet Christmas Carol.
I did see that, and that is hysterical. Yeah. Ted Lasso, huge surprise when it came out last season, and I know we've talked about it before, but for my money, it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And I'm super glad it's on TV. I think that's it. Do you have anybody have anything else they're dorking out about?
Foundation starts in 2 days.
Okay.
I'm very excited about that.
Yes, that's true. We should let's talk about it next week.
Sounds good. Are you watching that, Millie, too?
I'm planning to. I showed the trailer to Devin because I'm not familiar with that. I guess it's an Asimov series that books that he wrote. I'm not familiar with it. So
I read the first 3.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to see it. It's something I don't know anything about.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'm always a sucker for sci-fi.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to talk next week. This is Daniel for Alana, Millie, and Curtis, and the rest of the 12 saying goodbye and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go
Go
Hawks.
Hawks.